Chris Fedor, cleveland.com. Hey, guys. Nice. Good
I
start.
tried to move it down, so you can hold it if you want.
That's how I feel about your question, Chris.
All right. Koby, for you really quick, did you hear from ownership about your incident off the court?
Yeah, so I've had several conversations, like I said, across the building and with ownership and Dan. Like everything else, those conversations remain internal and personal, and this one was the same.
And then, do you expect Ricky to play at all this season?
So with Ricky, in regards to Ricky, just so everyone knows, his absence is excused as we speak right now. He's working to get himself right. We give him that time and that runway to get himself healthy. We support him from afar, and I think the thought process and hope is that he does return to Cleveland and the Cavaliers and helps us out this season. But we want to give him that time and that space to really get himself right.
In your conversations with him, has the conversation about retirement come up yet?
No.
Again, as a reminder, one question and a follow-up so we can get to as many people as possible. Thank you.
Hey guys, Jimmy Watkins, cleveland.com. What do you guys think, this is for either one of you, what do you guys think this team has to accomplish this season to convince Donovan that this is a long-term fit for him?
Well, I'd say one thing about Donovan since we've acquired him. And when we acquired him, he had 3 years left on his contract. He still has 2 years left on his contract as well. But he's been a tremendous partner since day one, since we acquired him, meeting his teammates right away in Nashville at an off-site, which he didn't have to do in the offseason, to what he's done all last year to this offseason. He's been genuine. He's helped us with our offseason in terms of acquisitions. He's made this place, along with this core young group, a destination, and he's been genuine. He wants to win here. He wants to win big here. And all we can go off of are those intentions that he gives us and the genuine feedback of how we can get to a place where we all want to be, and that's winning championships here in Cleveland. So he's excited about the year. You can ask him how happy he is with Cleveland, this organization, the roster, and get his true feelings without me just saying it. I think it's genuine, and he's truly happy here.
What does it say about the state of the league and player mobility that these are the kinds of questions that teams have to confront with superstars on teams that have won 50 games?
I will say that I think from our standpoint, again, when we acquired him, 3 years is an eternity in the NBA. And we want to win big with Donovan. I can't speak to other organizations and what they're going through. All I can tell you is we have a group of high-character guys that really love it here and believe that they can win big here. And so that's all I can tell you is from the Cleveland Cavaliers standpoint, we feel we're in a really good spot for a long runway of success.
Spencer Davies, Hoop Industry. Good to see you guys. For both of you, clearly this offseason shooting was a big part of what you wanted to bring in. From the spacing standpoint and diversifying the offense, can you just kind of go into detail and what you guys are looking to do this season, considering some of the stuff you did last year?
I mean, without giving away too many secrets, I think the game has come down to space and opportunity. And when you bring in a guy like Max, you bring in a guy like George, Ty, those guys that can make shots, at a high clip, it just puts that much more pressure on defenses. And I think, last year we were still a top 10 offense. I think when you saw it most is in, late game situations and obviously in the playoffs when people really start to lock in the threats that you have all around the floor, people take advantage of those opportunities more, and they crowd the floor more. So having guys who, have the reputation that those guys that we have brought in, it's just going to make everybody on the floor better, and it makes everybody on the floor's job easier. As far as the diversity of it, those guys are threats in a way where they're not just spot guys. You look at Max and what he's been able to do Like you can run him off of screens and people have to chase him, and he runs off at such a speed that it's not going to be one guy who can just keep their eye on him. The big guy has to be involved. And then you think about the dynamic players that you can have on the opposite side and what they're able to do, playing advantage basketball. So, those guys, they give you an advantage. The game is about shooting and making shots, obviously, but those guys came in to help us. And, again, it just makes us, that much more dangerous on the offensive end of the floor.
Spencer, I also say this too. Those two guys bring an edge. They bring a competitive edge. They bring a toughness. Max has started 41 games in the playoffs the last 2 years. And so they bring a dynamic that we're missing a little bit, that edge, that toughness, that grit. How do we win rounds of the playoffs? They've been through that. And so we've been a quiet group. It's nice to have some voices now in that gym, and you'll see that as you get to know these guys. They got a competitive edge. They got a chip, and I think that's going to be on top of the shooting dynamic, what they also bring to the table.
And then just to follow up with Jarrett, you guys have a lot of belief in him, but he took a lot of hits this summer just because of the playoff series. Could you just kind of reaffirm your belief in him and what he brings to the table?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think we have to. Everybody knows how we feel about Jarrett. Everybody knows how important Jarrett has been to the successes that we've had here. And, the outside noise and those who judge and critique, they don't change how we feel about our guys. And that doesn't make us waver. We understand that all of us have to be at our best in order for us to achieve what we want to achieve. But the outside noise doesn't matter. People's comments from, wherever who aren't a part of what we do every single day doesn't matter. And our guys know that. And we're not going to change how we feel about our guys because, people who are on the outside feel like they have a comment. We believe in Jarrett, always have, and that's the only thing that matters.
Terry Pluto from the Plain Dealer. JB, right over
I'm
here.
trying to find you. Sorry,
There we
Terry.
are.
There you
Yeah.
go.
When you looked at the playoffs, especially the video of that and things, what are a couple things that stood out for you? And I'm thinking about rebounding and maybe some others. And what are you going to do about it? And then Kobe, same thing when you guys did your deep dive on that playoffs.
I mean, the rebounding piece, but I think that was a part of the physicality as a whole. And, again, you saw younger guys, who haven't fully developed playing against older guys who, have more years, more experience, more age. With that age, the physicality comes when guys grow into their prime, and our guys are working that. But what I saw from our guys, which was most important to me, is from the day after it happened and we had, our exit meetings, guys were willing to do whatever it takes in order to improve that. So, we will be a much more physical basketball team this year. And, again, that will prep us for those moments. But all of these things, and this is where I want to make sure, we're clear, is like we understand that there's a process to this. And people learn lessons the hard way. It's just who we are in human nature. If everything is easy, you never figure it out. And, we learned a hard lesson. But you can't take away from what our guys have accomplished as we've continued to build. So, we understand the process. We understand the steps that need to be taken. And if you look, our guys' track record is pretty good at every year coming back a little bit better than the year before.
Yeah, Terry, I'll just add that I know a lot's been made of the toughness piece, the physicality piece, the rebounding piece. Those games were played largely in the 90s, which are winnable games. We got to score. We got to score the ball, and I think, us looking at ourselves in the mirror, what do we need to add? What do we need to give coach and this roster? And I think we addressed that. We'll see how that plays out over the course of the 82-game season. We take the regular season very serious, and we hope that it prepares us this year for success in the playoffs. So we're going to play a little different, and I'm not going to let Coach go into that more. But I think those games were winnable games, and we had to go through that battle, that adversity, and hopefully we get back there again.
And just to follow up along those lines, JB, did they expose the Knicks exposed maybe some flaws in your offense? Okay, yes, you need more shooting, but was there something else that you saw that you can attack to, as you mentioned, the games in the 90s? You're not going to win a lot of games to just keep playing in the 90s, but your general offensive approach.
I think there is, a way that we can create easier opportunities, and those are things that we've talked about as a staff. We've talked to our guys about, and those are things that I think you'll see us implement. I'm not going to sit here and divulge all that, but being able to create easier opportunities for ourselves is something that we have talked about.
Emmett Golden, ESPN Cleveland. This is for Koby. Koby, you talked about adding toughness. How much did that play into the return of Tristan Thompson to the Cavs?
Thank you for asking about Tristan. He and again, I would say that when we looked at the 14th roster spot, we wanted to be very intentional on who we brought in, what they were going to bring to this roster and to this organization. Tristan can still play, right? He played in the conference finals this last year, so that's part of it. But you're absolutely right. I think the toughness, the experience, also having been here, drafted here, winning several rounds of the playoffs here, a championship here, it's even more meaningful for us in this fan base. And to be quite honest, the players and what it means to bring Tristan Thompson back here. I think he's going to inject some of that toughness. I think you guys have been around us the last few years. We're kind of quiet. Tristan's not quiet in a very, very good way. So he's going to push us, and he's going to push us to heights we hope we can get to when we had him as our starting center. So he's thrilled to be back. You'll get to talk to him about why he's excited to be here. But that's certainly part of it. But I appreciate that question, Emmett. You're excited about him.
Sam Amico, Hoops Wire. I guess it'd be either one of you, but how important was it for you to bring back LeVert in terms of helping with ball handling and all that?
I'm sorry, Sam. Can you
You
say that
missed
again?
part of the question.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Sam.
okay, sorry. How important was it for you to bring back Caris LeVert?
Well, you want to talk about the basketball piece?
Yeah, Caris as a person, first and foremost, is the type of person that you want to have in your building every single day. We put Caris in extremely difficult positions last year. He went from, starting to coming off the bench to starting again to having to guard the other team's best offensive perimeter player. And not one time did he flinch at what we asked him to do. So those are the type of people that you want to have here, and those are the type of people that are going to help you be successful. The basketball piece, I think that speaks about his versatility. He does have the ability to handle the ball. He has the ability to play make. You look at what he did last year from a spot shooting standpoint. He was elite as a spot shooter from behind three last year. So there's so many different ways that you can use him that he's like that Swiss Army knife type of guy that teams are looking for. 6'6", 6'7", rangy guy, that can play multiple positions, that can play with the ball, play out without the ball. But his want to be here and want to be a part of this team made it a no-brainer. Again, just like the quality of his character, besides the basketball piece, that was something that you want to build with, and the more people like that you get, the better your organization and situation is going to be.
John Sable, Fox 8. This is for Koby. This time last year at Media Day, you said, and I'm paraphrasing, that you weren't putting any expectations on this team because you guys were so young, and it was Donovan's first year with the team. Now, a year later, your experience, Donovan in the Cavs, you guys went to the playoffs. What is, in your mind, a legit experience or expectations rather for this team now in year two of this group together?
So, great question. I usually get that from Chris. What's success this year? So I was ready for it. No. So I think first and foremost is this season. And I know people talk about the season not meaning much in NBA these days, and I disagree. We got to start building habits. Winning habits every day in practice and in games, and the season is very, very important for that. That's going to get us ready for the playoffs. And what's success in the playoffs? We want to have success in the playoffs. Having gone through what we went through last year, I'm not going to label it or pigeonhole ourselves into that, but I do want that to come from the players as well. And so as we go through this first week, through training camp, I want you to ask them, what's success here? What are their collective goals? What are they going to own as a team and as players? I think I know what the answer is going to be, and I want to be behind that. But we want to go through this season and really prepare ourselves for postseason and then have success in the postseason.
And then just to follow up on just postseason in general, what were your initial thoughts on your division getting a little tougher with Damian Lillard going to Milwaukee?
Yeah, the East is a monster, and it was last year, and it continues to be. Last year, on paper, just the NBA as a whole, it was the most competitive year in NBA history. There are no easy games. There are no easy matchups. We're fighting to get home court advantage, and it's still super even if you have that. So we understand the margins. This is a difficult league. We're excited about our roster and what we can accomplish if we come together and worry about ourselves. We can't worry about the different moves that are made in the offseason. All we can worry about is internal and have upside with our guys internally. But yeah, it's a monster, but I think we're super excited and ready for it.
Jason.
Jason Lloyd, The Athletic. Koby, are you anticipating any sort of disciplinary measures from ownership?
So, like I said, I'm not going to go into specifics or details regarding the incident. I have had several conversations internally, and we're going to keep those private for now.
For either, I was actually going to ask you about Damian, but since you had just covered that, now that you've had a little bit of time to get back or to take a step back from last year, is last year a success? Do you consider last year a success?
I do, and I'll let Coach talk about, what's next. I think when you think about where we've come as an organization, from 22 wins to 44 wins to 51 wins with a really young group, that's success. And we have to give a ton of credit to the guys in that locker room that have, one, been through it, have helped us build and get to where we are now. It's hard to say a 50-plus win, top 4 in the East season is a disappointment. I will say that, like I led it with in my opener, the playoffs left a sour taste in our mouths, and I think we collectively, as an organization, from the players, coaches on down, use it as fuel this offseason to get better. And hopefully not end how we ended last year. But I will say, in terms of the regular season and what we're building for sustainable success, I was very happy with what we did last year.
Yeah, I agree with Koby. I think it's from our position, it's difficult, to grasp how it was not a success. We play seasons for a reason, right? Guys get awards for a reason. And I feel like, not just in your question, but as a whole, we're starting to discount what NBA seasons mean and how difficult NBA seasons are. To Koby's point, I think with 2 weeks left to go, there was 26 teams that were still in contention for a playoff seeding or a play-in seeding. So the NBA is really good, and it's really hard to be successful and to win games in the NBA every single night. So to go out and win 51 games, is not easy. And there were 6 teams, I think, in the league that ended up winning that amount of games or winning over 50 games, and we were one of those teams. And you don't do that, if you're not mentally tough and you're not physically tough, because the game, again, it's not easy. The NBA season is a grind. Do we need to continue to improve? I think yes. I think most teams that you talk to will talk about, they want to continue to improve. What I think is realistic, and it was great for the NBA world to see, is the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat to end up in the finals. Those were teams, who had playoff successes, playoff losses, but maintained their core, added pieces around the core, and then continued to find ways to get better. And that's the reality of the NBA. There are no teams, especially that are doing it the way that we've done it, but, none of the super teams that were put together went right away and won championships, right? Like, those teams took a loss that they had to learn from, and they figured it out. You go back to, in our recent time, Oklahoma City, right? Oklahoma City had 3 MVPs on their team, and they took time to get to where they wanted to go. So that's the NBA reality. Nobody skips steps. Doesn't matter how good you are, what trades you make. You don't skip steps in the NBA. You have to go through it. Now, how quickly you learn, that's the judge of who you are. And again, when you look at our group, you lose in the play-in, you come back, you improve, get home court advantage. You get home court advantage, you make it to the playoffs. I expect our team to take a leap because that's what the character of our guys says that they'll be able to do. So that's our expectations. And, I do think, we're shorting or discounting our guys if we didn't say there was success in that, although, we may not have reached the ultimate goal that we're all aiming for.
Tom Withers, Associated Press. Hi, Koby. How you doing, JB?
What's up?
Hey, you've prided yourself in the past on the team being tough and physical. Is it disappointing that it went away in the on the biggest stage? And then how do you build that back?
It's funny to me because, we're making the point as if our guys aren't tough, right? And I don't believe that. Our guys are physically and mentally tough. Sometimes you run into people who are stronger than you. That's the nature of this business, right? There are guys, who are, more physical or stronger than you, and they can make you pay. I don't feel like our guys backed down from a challenge. I don't feel like they ran from the competition. I don't think that they were afraid of the moment by any means. I do think that guys were stronger than us, and that's point blank. But it wasn't a lack of fight. It wasn't a lack of effort. It's not a lack of toughness. Like, again, you don't become the number 1 defensive team in the league and not be physically and mentally tough, right? That just doesn't happen. So, I think, again, there was a moment where we were overpowered by size and strength. Those are things at some point we can control. But it's not a matter of our guys not being tough, and that needs to be made very clear at this moment.
Mitch Spinell, 92.3 The Fan. Good afternoon, guys. For Coach, we saw the development with Evan Mobley last year, had a couple of moments there where he was developing his offensive game as well. Are there any other particular aspects of his game this year that you're hoping you see some big strides in?
Yeah, we're the usage for sure. We've implemented some things and put some things in place where the ball is going to be in his hands more often. And the decisions that he's able to make, are going to make him, very, very unique because of his ability. But, like, one thing that I, want to be clear with Evan also is, we can put the ball in Evan's hands, 100 times a game. And Evan can be your most impactful player with the ball in his hands without scoring a point. You know what I mean? Like, he has that type of ability where he makes his teammates that much better. He has the ability to defensive rebound and push the ball and make whatever decision is the right next decision. So, what Evan does is Evan plays the total game of basketball. And if the defense, is going to play a certain way, he's going to make the play that's going to beat the defense 100 times in a row. You go back to the Milwaukee game here at home. Where, he was scoring. It's because they made a decision defensively that they were going to allow him to catch the ball in the pocket and they were going to stay home on the perimeter. So he just made the right basketball play. Evan is a guy, who with more usage as we plan on, like, he can flirt with triple doubles, because of his skill set. And, like, that's extremely impactful. So we're not looking at Evan as a one-dimensional player where it has to be score. It's Evan Mobley. You can dominate a game by having a complete impact on both sides of the ball.
I'm going to finish up with our last 3 questions. Nate, Chris, and then Marla.
Hey, JB, Nate Allard from the Akron Beacon Journal. Will Max Strus be your starting small forward?
You think I would tell you that?
Well, I was going to ask you what your plan was, but I figured we'd go with the direct route first.
Well, I like your tactics, but we'll, like I said, this is all stuff that we're going to figure out how to put the best 5-man units on the floor at a time. we don't come out with anybody and make any promises. Max knows how valuable he is to us. He was the guy that we went after in free agency because we believe that he can help us the most. But I don't know who's going to start for us on opening night.
And then when you're talking about, the need to get stronger, essentially, and being overpowered at times, what have you seen from some of your guys in the off season when, that is the time when players, can develop that way? Or is there anyone in particular you're excited about along those lines?
I mean, it's all the guys, and I think you'll see, when they come out here, guys committed themselves to the weight room. It's one of those things where it's kind of funny because, like, depending on your age, your makeup, your body type, that strength shows itself differently. You know what I mean? Like, some guys you'll see and they're physically bigger. Some guys, can just lift more weight and move more weight than, they could the previous year. But guys have committed themselves to the weight room, but it's not something for us. And this is where, our commitment goes year round. It's like, you can't have a great summer and then the season come and then you stop doing those things. Right? Like, our season is very, very long. So if you stop doing those things you were doing the summer, you're going to have an ill effect. And obviously you can't do as much because of the game, but there's maintenance that you can do. And at a young age, these guys are going to continue to gain strength. So our focus is on the whole, and it's not just the off season. We've got a program in place for everybody that's going to continue to push them physically, push them mentally, and help us reach challenges and fight through challenges and overcome those.
And I'll also just add, some of this happens over the course of time. Evan Mobley's 22 years old, right? We always have to remember that. But at 22, when you invest in your own personal gym at your home, that's a big deal. That's understanding what I have to do to get better physically. When you invest in your own nutrition program at that age, that's a big sign that I really care about this thing and I want to get better. But he's 22, just like Darius is 23. And I think we also have to take a step back and realize, one, we're in really good shape as a franchise because we have two young cornerstones that are going to continue to get better and develop. Their body's going to continue to improve and get better and develop. But that's going to take time. We don't know what Evan's going to look like at 25 years old. All we know is that 22 years old, he's doing the right things every single day to improve and attack this thing. So we're excited. We know their hearts and minds and intentions are in the right place.
This is for both of you guys. What is the next step for this organization, and how do you make sure that you take it this year?
I mean, it's continue to do what we've done, right? I think we've invested in the right type of people. I think those people have continued to get better. You look at Darius, for example, from where Darius started with us in his first year to becoming an all-star. Jarrett, the same. Evan improving to being an all, defensive player, second in the defense of the year voting. Donovan coming in here and having the best year individually of his career. Like, our responsibility is to these guys to help them continue to improve. And as they improve, with the mindset of their improvement impacting the team. We're not here to celebrate individual goals and successes. We're here to help guys get better so that they can make our team and make the organization better. So that's what our focus is to every single day go to work trying to help these guys get better, help our team get better. And as they all improve, wins will increase, playoff wins will increase, and that's what our expectations are.
Marla Rodner, Cleveland Magazine. It's hard for me to say that.
Cleveland Magazine,
yeah.
Marla. I love it. That's great.
I just wonder for both of you, how long did it take you to get over the Knicks series? Like, did you lose a lot of sleep? How many times have you watched it? I mean, you still watching it? Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how you look at it, losing sucks.
Yeah.
Right? And, in those games, and you go back and you think about moment to moment, there were opportunities there to be had. And I think, that makes it even more difficult. Like, if you were to lose every game by 20 points, you'd realize you just weren't good enough and you needed to move on. We still had, I think, the best defense in the playoffs. So we were, we put ourselves in position to have a chance. So it made it difficult. It was, I think it was the conference finals before I started watching playoff basketball again on a regular basis, because you just don't want to see it, to be honest with you. But you know what I mean? Like, that's the sickness that drives us all. It's like you don't want to feel that way, even though you know at the end of the day only one team is not going to feel that way when the year ends. But, you know, again, you don't make it to this point if you don't have that sickness in you, because it drives you to want to do things that most people aren't willing to do. And, you know, that's where we are as coaches, front office, players, is like, you know, we do have that feeling in the pit of our stomach to go out and do whatever we can in our power to make sure that we don't feel that again. And that's where we kind of are.
Koby, what about you? Did you watch it like several times?
Yeah, it's well, I didn't watch it right away. And give the Knicks credit. Really good team. I mean, competitive throughout the playoffs, competitive throughout the year. For us, it was how do we internalize this and get better? From, like I said, all avenues, whether that be hitting the weight room, player development, acquisitions in the offseason, and just a mindset of, okay, now we've accomplished this in terms of playoffs, in terms of home court advantage. What do we have to do to get ready to compete at this level? And I think Coach said it right. You have to go through adversity. You have to go through lumps and come back stronger. And I think you're going to see that from us this year.
Koby, with Donovan being extension eligible, where are your conversations with him on that front? And if something doesn't get done by opening night, what effect will that have, if any, on your thinking of that situation?
There's really not, Chris, because he can. If you want to go into the weeds, he can sign the same extension next offseason. You know, Donovan, outside of just those conversations, we have several conversations just about, like I said before, the composition of the roster, how we want to play this year, how are you bringing your teammates along, where are we working out in the offseason. Those are conversations that, you know, I'll talk about externally that are super positive. And now I know he wants to be a part of this thing and win. To your question, no, he's going to be super excited to start this season and try to win big. And that has no impact on how we view him.